Hey everyone, welcome to The Lazy Show. I'm one of the hosts, Alex. I got my co-host here, Fico, and joining us for this episode is Zan from Initia. So a little background on Zan. He's co-founder at Initia. It's a network for interwoven optimistic rollups. Recently just raised $14 million late last year in a Series A for a $350 million valuation. And prior to this, met his co-founder at Terraform Labs as a smart contract developer as he got his start into crypto. But frankly, we're not going to be talking a whole lot about his crypto-specific experience or about Initia today. Really, with the Lazy Show, the idea here was with this segment is we want to bring on founders and highlight the founders, their stories, their background, unrelated necessarily to the specific crypto projects that they're working on right now. So we want to get to know the founders and hear their stories. And this is not going to be a technical talk. This is not going to be talking shop. This is not going to be shilling product. This is going to be talking about Zan. And
I'm sure I'll find a way to show the product at some point.
Oh, always. Oh, right. We're in crypto, right? This is the challenge mode. This is hard when you set this constraint, right? This is the hard part. I'm sure we'll run into that, but I'll steer us in a particular direction, right? You grew up in Vancouver, right?
That's right. Yep. Born and raised in Canada. Vancouver is the place to be.
A Canuck.
Actually, pretty big crypto scene there on the down low, not going to lie. There's like...
that is surprising
actually,
to me.
Like, there's a lot of founders and teams in Vancouver, but one of the coolest things that I got to see recently was the Layer Zero office, because it's like a 150-person company just all based in Vancouver. And Vancouver typically has not been a big spot for like tech companies or products, and especially crypto. It was really nice to see like a big one centered and based there in my hometown. Even if you look at like Toronto, there's some tech shops and products, but really like Shopify is probably the biggest one there, and everything else is down south in the US.
Yeah. I was always wondering that with Vancouver, because you would think growing up in this beautiful boreal forest area, the last thing that you'd be thinking to yourself is, man, I want to spend my life in front of a screen right now. That's just, it's gorgeous there, right? But you're right. And Toronto has a crazy crypto scene as well, tech scene as well. It's not necessarily what I'd expect, but maybe in the colder areas of the country, colder areas of the world, you tend to get people.
The thing about Vancouver is that it is really beautiful in the summer, and it doesn't get too cold in the winter, but maybe 8 months out of the year, it's just rain, right? Because you need the water to make the luscious plants grow. So you just have month over month of like cloudy skies and rain, which is, I wouldn't say great, but the summers are beautiful.
So would you say like you are more like a tropical paradise place, or you like colder places? Like where would you rather be like to be living on, perhaps?
Well, I like that I get to experience all of the seasons. I know some people don't get to experience like all 4 seasons.
I'm
properly.
A season guy.
Yeah, seasons are nice. Those are cool. But I would prefer less rain. Not gonna lie. However, I would say that growing up, you don't actually, in Vancouver, it's definitely a car city. So you have to drive everywhere, which means that you're not actually outdoors a whole lot unless you're intentionally trying to go for a hike or something, or go skiing. And so, yeah. What about you two? Where are you from?
This is the thing. I was like, I can probably have more similarities with you growing up in Michigan than with Fico, who grew up in Ecuador. It's just like, you have no seasons. It's always warm. You got surfing. Seasons. And I think for you and me, Zan, it's like, it's cloudy 6 months out of the year, and it's just like, you don't even want to be outside. So naturally, your hobbies and interests end up forming around being indoor focus. As we get Fico here, the surfer who just surfed 2 separate times today.
Yeah. You know what's funny?
Today?
Like where I'm from, today I surfed twice. Yeah. Where I'm from right now, it's like winter, but like actually winter is like warmer than summer because of the rain. Like it rains, then the sun comes out, and then the humidity like just like condenses everything, and then you're like sweating like crazy. I have the AC on in 3 separate rooms. Like here, you understand like why we are like such like AC fans. Like many people in Europe, because I also live in Europe. I live in Netherlands, and over there, like you need the AC like maybe one day out of the year because it's so freaking cold and gray the whole year. But yeah, I still love it over there. But hey,
Yeah,
anyway, I
I
wanted to
feel
ask
that.
you. So you're from
I was gonna say
Vancouver, so
most. Yeah, go for it. Sorry, you go.
no worries. So would you choose poutine, bannock, Nanaimo bars, or Yapa dog? What's like what kind of like what's your favorite snack?
Favorite snack is none of those. However, I do like a good Japa dog. I'm
Yeah.
definitely big on hot dogs. However, I would say that my go-to hot dog is a Costco hot dog. I live maybe,
Man of culture.
that's right. My house in back in Vancouver, my parents' house is maybe a 5-minute drive from a Costco. And so we did all of our grocery shopping there every week. And growing up, my parents, they ran some cafes and they owned some. And so the family business was, you know, setting up at the shop, like getting all the food and ingredients, etc. And I would manage the till pretty often when I was a child.
Nice.
But we would go to Costco all the time and stock up for everything that the cafes needed, but also for the house. And you best believe I'm getting a hot dog at the same time.
Yeah.
It's a 2-for-1 stop. So did you work in that cafe in your parents' business growing up?
I would say I just did it from time to time, like after school. I would sometimes go there and just manage the till while I was bored or until my dad was ready to go home. The best part about it was we would make all the food that would become my lunch like the next day. So I'd get some like fire paninis or some good wraps or like a burrito or like anything, right? That I could just have for lunch the next day or for dinner
Nice.
that day.
So you got some chef skills or what?
Um, my dad has some chef skills for sure, and my mom, but I'm getting there myself. I try and do all my cooking in New York personally because I think it's just ungodly expensive. Every time you leave the house in New York, you end up spending $100. So I have
Can
to
relate.
cook. And I'm trying to be healthy. I'm trying to lose some pounds, get yoked, just be more optimal in general as a human, and that
Hmm.
means usually cooking. Yeah.
Nice.
There's this line here for founders just going into the gym is the temple. I mean, you have the Rushis of the world who are basically borderline power lifters, and it's just you go into founder mode. It's like, okay, my body brain relationship is I'm optimizing as much as I possibly can, and I mean, there's a lot of research to support that. It's like it supports both. So I
There's
definitely picked a pace, and I'm like I need a gym that's like less than a block away, and that's
mhm.
exactly what I do. Is I go there, I sauna now, I lift a lot, and man,
the
I will go
sauna,
crazy if I don't do that. Next
the
level sauna.
sauna post gym
Poh.
just makes you feel like you are the most elite human possible.
Yeah,
Like
man.
everybody that's not doing this every day is like worse than me.
Yeah.
And you just it's a power trip for real.
Yeah. I swear to God, man, it's true. Yeah, yeah. I love like a steam bath. Also, that's my favorite, man. Like, I love to go to the steam bath. The Turkish bath, I don't know how they call it. In Spanish, it's like baño turco. Man,
Mm.
I love that one too. It's amazing. After the gym, like just sit down and just like relax,
The
meditate.
banyas are nice. We do you know what vibe check is or the tags? It's like this thing, the square brackets, and people wear them on their belts.
Mm.
So at ETH Denver, we there's usually a vibe check house that people can go to and stay at if you're tagged up. And so we sponsored a Initia banya there. And so it's like a portable banya that they brought and they kept outside of the house. And it was phenomenal. We had like the whole Initia team in there one day, just like sweating it out together.
I think I saw a
Good
video.
team
Yeah.
bonding experience.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I feel I want to do more side events at conferences surrounded by an activity like that. And that's, I mean, you're not doing much in there, but it's enough of an activity. Or you're doing a soccer tournament, or you do, I think morning jog is pretty generic, but I feel like there's more unique ways that we can
Yeah.
be doing more activities versus just sitting in a room.
In Thailand, we did like not jujitsu, but we did some sort of like martial arts that you would
Yeah,
train with someone.
Mu-
That was pretty
Muay
cool.
Thai, I think, right?
Muay Thai, yeah, you're right.
Yeah. I love that one also, man.
Nothing like, I mean, it's just like the crypto matchup of like, you just have these two people in a ring going after it. Nothing like punching someone in the face to bring yourselves closer together. Nothing like it. Nothing like it. It's cool. So you grew up in Vancouver. You, like me, dealt with basically half the year is just clouds, maybe more. Naturally developed probably some hobbies focused on indoor. It's like, what were those things that you were kind of gravitating towards? Were you the type of person who you're like, when I grow up, I'm going to be this person, like obsessive, very focused, or were you just like a dabbler, like I do this, and just kind of follow your interests all over the place?
I definitely wanted to be a bit more of a Renaissance man, doing a lot of different things.
Nice.
I found that in high school, I took a lot of different classes, but I was pretty studious. I got brown parents. They have high expectations. I wanted to go to the
Crushing
US
weight.
for college, and I wanted to be a software engineer and engineer in some capacity. I used to do a lot of physical engineering rather than software engineering, so I was part of like the robotics team. We were building autonomous underwater vehicles back in our high school, and we competed only against colleges. So all of our competitors were like Stanford,
Next
Yale,
level.
etc. And then we were the only high school team. And we had, the budget of like $10,000 Canadian, which is nothing compared to like a real
They're like,
funded
what's the
team.
exchange rate this weekend? It's like, all right, you guys are sharing a room. It's
And so the robot that we ended up building was like this crazy amalgamation of different parts and pieces that we found here and there. It's like a Frankenstein submarine that like the main hull was built out of this old underwater camera housing. We had these two engines that were like, we took physical drills and took them apart, and like the motor that spins on them became like the engines that we used.
yes.
We had like a gimbal system that would move the two motors underwater, and that was built like from an old garage door opener. And so just slapped all these different
Yeah.
things together. And what was impressive is that we got it to just go straight, at least. And because of that, we came like top 10 or something, top 20, because a lot of teams just end up sinking their machines. Try and get too fancy, Just go straight, don't sink, and you're big chillin'. Outside of that, I would say I was in a lot of like AP classes. I studied Latin as my language, which was
Oh,
a crazy choice. Like there's
same.
no, yeah, why would we do that? There's no benefit at all. But they're like, actually, if you study Latin, you're going to be really good at learning other languages.
Exactly
Did
what you're
not
saying,
help me,
correct.
I wouldn't say.
Yeah.
Would you say it helped you?
No, like for me it was the same in like my high school. Like I think the last 2 years we had to take Latin, and first of all the teacher, she was pretty hot. Second of all,
So
it
that's why
was-
people took it.
Yeah, no, you had to take it. She was pretty hot and she was pretty like gnarly, angry. And to be honest, I wasn't the best student ever.
Hot and
But she
angry.
was, yeah, she was like, yeah, it's you know where the story's going. We're like 15 and 16, so man, and she was telling us all the time, like, yeah, Latin is amazing language. You can learn like Portuguese, Italian. I'm like, I don't even know how to speak Spanish. Like, I'm not gonna learn other languages. But now, unfortunately, I can speak Portuguese and other languages. But yeah, just because of Latin.
Okay, so perhaps it
Kinda,
did work. In fact,
Yeah, in the back of my head, I have it. Yeah, I don't remember. If you ask me right now, I don't remember like nothing. Like maybe a few words, but not really. Like yeah. But
The
yeah,
reason I did it was because it was probably one of the best teachers we had at our high school, and then it was where all the nerds were, and so it felt like a good time and good place to be just to like learn from other people.
Oh my
That was
gosh,
nice.
my okay. I did some AP classes in like 11th grade, and then I was just lazy. Going into 12th grade was like AP Lit on the language side, and I was like, I don't want to do that. It's a lot of reading. Don't feel like it. So I did normal English, and the dynamic difference of the average person in the room on that AP class, and then going into my senior year and going into normal English was night and day. It was more of like a people watching social experience that I remember learning the most. Didn't learn shit in that class other than just the people watching there. And I was like, wow, this is just a completely different dynamic of people in this class. So I was like, okay, I'm not doing that again. That was my lesson. That was my lesson there.
Yeah.
I can't help but come back to this robot thing. I feel like we just gloss over that, and that is just wild.
Robotics
That
was
is not
cool.
a normal thing.
It was pretty
It's pretty.
fun. Um, yeah, it was really cool to just like build all these parts like with your hands, and so
Yeah.
I really enjoyed like working with the team on like how do you actually grind this piece of metal into the right shape, right? Like the woodworking that you also have to do with it, like all these sorts of things that were physical engineering. And I always thought, okay, I really like this. I learned how to use like a laser cutter, like a 3D printer, all these sorts of things like 10 years ago. And I was like, maybe I'm going to go into traditional engineering in
Mhm.
university. But then I didn't. I went to software engineering because traditional engineering is like hard mode. You get paid way less and you have to do way more. And I was like, I can probably become a lot better at my job, make a lot more by just sitting behind a computer and typing some stuff. And
Yeah.
luckily, my high school had good software engineering classes or like CS classes. So I started those in grade nine. And because I wanted to go to school in the US, and most of these big US schools only accept like 20 or 30 Canadians from all of Canada, I had to take a lot of the nerd harder classes. So I took
Hmm.
maybe like 10 to 15 AP classes throughout my high school time. Um, and yeah, some of these side things were definitely a lot of fun. So robotics was one. The other was I played rugby growing up from like grade
Nice.
4 to
Nice.
grade like 10. Our school's main sport was rugby because we're not Americans, so we don't play like football. But I was tiny as a human. I was like 4 feet. This little guy. I was like the smallest in the grade until I got a little bit of a growth spurt later. But like everyone knew me as being this tiny guy, and that's why I was really approachable and had it made it a lot easier to become friends with people. And luckily, that friendship and like being that small, approachable guy was useful because every year from when I got to high school until the last year, I was like elected into the student council president role, and so
Nice.
that was fun too. But rugby was cool to experience, but I couldn't do the physical fighting as much. I can't tackle someone. I'm tiny, and
Did
so
you
I
break
ended
any
up
bones?
doing. I broke one bone, but in cricket. So
Oh,
in
right.
grade in grade 10, my school had a lot of like South African people, a decent number of
Mm.
Indians, like all sorts of people. And so in grade 10, me and some of the older students were like, hey, we should start a cricket team just for fun, just for giggles. And so we put together this like merry band of men. It was also an all boys school, by the way, um, that just wanted to play cricket. And I was very inexperienced. I've never played cricket, but I felt like it was in my blood. I should be good at this sport. And
I
so
have to be good at this.
yeah, exactly. And so we started a cricket team. We became provincial champions, which is not that big of a deal because there was like four other cricket teams in BC, and like the main
Nice.
competitor was actually like a BC women's recreational team. But they had a bunch of Team Canada national players on it that would just like come
Hmm.
and play for fun. So
But
when
you just
those
cut
people
all
were
of
up
that
to
fat
bat,
out when you're talking about it. It's like, no, we were number one in the in the country.
that's right.
You
That's
just
right.
leave
Provincial
that last bit off.
champions.
Exactly.
And so in my grade 12 year, I was captain of the cricket team, right? My skills definitely evolved. I don't think it was warranted though. I think they just made me captain because I was also like school captain. And
Hey, you're the friendly
so,
guy, right?
yeah,
You befriend
exactly.
everyone. You learned that in rugby, right?
Yep. And they, in the provincial finals game, um, last game of the year, I broke my pelvic bone
Oh,
Oh,
by I think it might be the first cricket injury ever because I wasn't like hit by a ball and like fucked up my bone. I was just diving for the wickets
hmm
because in cricket you run across and you get past the line. So I was diving one time and the muscle in my bone and my leg just pulled so hard because I didn't do any stretching or warming up and you're wearing all these heavy
oh
pads
shit.
that it like ripped part of my bone off. Um,
oh my
and
God.
people were like, "He needs some milk, bro." Yeah, probably I need some more calcium.
They're like, oh my God, pelvic break is so, that's
Gnarly.
next level.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
That's a
brutal,
gnarly break.
but we
Oh
did
Yeah.
man.
win, and so my life's basically it was a movie. It was like,
I was gonna say, I just saw that script. I just saw the trailer in my head. Netflix. We can zhuzh it up a little bit. We can Hollywoodify it.
Yeah.
oh yeah,
Yeah, I was. I mean, I did some sports, but I was always I talked my way out of my problems type of guy too. I was not a I was not a big guy. My dad put me in football when I was in middle school, and same thing. I'm just this scrawny stick, and I'm just getting lit up by that kid who got held back one grade and is just a meat sack. That was not fun. That was a more similar to that 12th grade English class, more of a social experiment in learning, I would say, than anything else. Athletic. I feel you. I feel you
Yeah.
on that.
For me, it was only playing food, like soccer. You know, here in South America, anything's related to soccer, everybody's like so like stoked about it. But I played till like I was like 13, and then I like got into skateboarding, and then eventually I moved into surfing. And yeah, actually talking about high school, I was just telling my little nephew here. We're here by the beach, and I told him like a story I shouldn't have told him because now he's like he's bringing it up all the time. Like, yeah, but you like, so this is the story. So when I was in high school, like around 14, 15, whenever you miss classes, there was a lady who would call your mom and say, "Hey, why is your kid not at school? We want to know the medical reason," or blah blah blah. So we used to pay this lady $10 to not call my parents or my friends' parents, and then just skip the whole school. I used to live in front of the highway. I would cross the highway with my surfboard, and then just like wait for my friend to come in the bus because he lived like in like the near the terminal, bus terminal, and then he would pick me up. We would arrive like here, nearby here, and then just surf on our own. Man, it was like paradise. And now every time I tell my little nephew, like, "Hey, you should like behave," and he's like, "You skipped class. You went surfing." I'm like, I shouldn't have. Yeah, yeah. I
teach
love, I
them a
love
good
surfing.
lesson of bribery.
Yeah,
Only $10.
Yes,
yeah,
it's cheap.
yeah.
It's cheap. Silence is cheap.
Man, here in Ecuador, it's like GTA. This country is GTA. I swear to God, man. You have money, all the 6 stars go down to zero, man. Hey, talking about video games, by the way, do you have any like favorite video game you play or console you used to play?
Definitely played a lot of video games growing up. We used to also, I don't know if this is like illegal. Well, obviously it was illegal, but used to do
Go for
a
it.
lot of pirating, downloaded all of
Yeah.
our like our
Hmm.
movies, etc. And then modded basically every single video console that we owned, a video game
Yes.
console. So, the 360 was probably like the golden era. We probably have like 5 different Xbox 360s in our basement somewhere though, because when you mod them, after a while they get this thing called the red rings of death, and
Yeah.
then they would just stop working, right? And
Devastating.
so you buy
Yeah.
another one. But we had Halo was definitely my favorite game of all time. Halo Combat
Oh yeah.
Evolved. Halo 3 was probably one that I spent the most time in. And then nowadays it's mostly Super Smash Bros. And PlayStation games. But
Yes.
back in the day when we were modding these games for like the Wii and everything else, what we did was me and my brother, instead of just burning these games onto a disc and keeping them somewhere, we were like, we want this to look nice. And when you have all of your games in those like packages, it looks really nice.
Yeah.
And so
You
we
would
Yeah.
print them.
we ordered like 500 like packages of like those game cartons that look like the Xbox games, like the lime green ones from somewhere in China. They're pretty cheap. And then we got
That's
a disc
amazing.
burner that can burn on an image onto the game, so it looks like the
Oh,
actual game CD. And then we
Solid.
would print out like a piece of paper that goes inside the disc cartridge or carton, and then
And did you
look.
sell
It
this?
basically feel like you had your actual game. Well, I sold some games back in the day for like when Halo first came out.
crime goes away after a certain amount of time. It's okay. It's
I
not a
love
crime
this.
anymore.
Most of it was just for our basement, so it looked nice.
Okay, chill. Nice. That's cool. So you were like getting the real, not real pirate game, like you had the real version. I like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. It looked legit.
You did it right.
Yeah.
People came home or came to my house and they're like, "Damn, bro,
You get so
you
many
must be
games.
rich. Yeah, look at all these games."
Yeah. Like the type of disc burning and stuff that I would do, like if I put it in an equivalence, if it were moonshine, it's the type that would make you blind. It's that level of quality of workmanship, craftsmanship. I can't imagine going to that level of detail of like finding a distributor in China and ordering, of course, 500 because it's wholesale price, and then
Yep.
just it's like doing it right. That takes a next level of commitment.
we
I'm
did
like,
it
I'm just
well.
trying to play this freaking game.
Respect, man.
Did you ever do like Project M if you're a Smash Brothers guy on
My
GameCube?
first Smash game was Ultimate, actually, and then I retroactively learned Melee, but I never played Project M or any of the older ones. What about you?
Yeah, it's the next level of like tournaments and stuff that you would have from people who it's the modded Project M and just the wave dashing and hours that you could put into this and find these little metas and everything, and it would change the meta when someone found out a new move that you could do. A similar game from that experience that I played was like Rocket League, and it's just so interesting how you can design such an incredible physics engine that you have these different chapters throughout the game's history where people will find that you can do something new, and then once that's revealed that that's possible, everyone will learn that, and then it's impossible to play at that top level unless you know that particular skill. Where before seemed like it was impossible, and the first person who does it, it's just like, how the hell did they do that? And then a few weeks later, everyone knows how to do that. And it's just so interesting, the discovery of the meta when you build something rich enough. And to dip one bit into like the crypto world, it's like when I try to design product, it's like that's at least how I'm trying to think of. It's like, how do you provide a really good solid foundation where people can discover these little metas? That was a really fun aspect of these different games that were designed really well.
Yeah, I unfortunately I never got into stuff like RuneScape, but I feel like that was the foundation for a lot of people in like
Golden.
building economies, right? And like getting into crypto. And luckily, my co-founder Stan has spent like half of his life in that game. So I could bring other experiences, right?
Mhm.
But
Right.
Melee was cool because I'm sad that I missed a lot of the discovery stuff that you're talking about, where people would learn new mechanics and then everyone would pick them up. But it is an incredibly jank game, right? And like the jankness of the game just makes it so
Was the
much
character.
better because
Yes.
you can get the ceiling is so high. And in San Francisco, where I moved after I graduated from college for a couple of years, we had like our regular TV set up with the Switch and the PlayStation. And then beside it, we had like a CRT TV, like one of the really old ones with a GameCube.
Yes.
And so we would sometimes just have like Smash going on both of those, but Melee and Ultimate. And that was an awesome time. I miss those days.
Oh, that's the best. I was more of a PC gamer, so it was always LAN parties where my dad worked for Cisco Systems, and he would literally have like a enterprise level $10,000 Switch that was just the old model is just on the desk, and you'd have like dozens of Ethernet cables plugged into that thing and plugged into everyone's PCs with a giant, just fold out picnic table, and then you'd play for that night. That was always my experience on the, I would say, like modding or enthusiast piece, was just building PCs and overclocking them and stuff. But to me, it's like that just felt like Legos. That didn't feel legit engineering or any type of, it's just putting pieces together basically and doing some
Building
little things in
PCs
the BIOS.
was cool. I built a few as well in my day, but I was always like a Mac person because my dad was pretty early on Apple. And so one PC that we built though, me and my friend, we designed like a Lego human around it. And so we like ordered all the parts and pieces and measured it all out, and we had this like big Lego figure that was built with all the ports as like the eyes and the mouth and stuff like that, and it was like
You go
a piece
next
of the PC
level.
inside it, and that was pretty awesome. And then one time we were installing like liquid cooling at some point for a part of it, and we messed it up and drowned the entire thing.
Hey, by the
Yeah.
way, going back to the gaming subject, do you guys remember the game Duke Nukem by any chance?
Duke Nukem. Yep.
Yeah, do you remember that game? I just remember that there was like a part you could go to the strip club and you could like you press space like a bunch of times, and then he would give money, and then they would like show the titties, but the titties had like alien nipples and shit. I don't know. I just remember that.
They were just like 8-bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just remember that. I wanted to share that with you guys. Sorry.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
I appreciate it.
You should show your nephew that game.
Yeah, I will. I'm gonna tell him. Skip school, and play this game.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
I have a
Did
question.
you guys have any siblings? Oh, go for it.
I do have. I have 2 sisters and 1 brother.
Oh, you have a big family. I just have one
Yeah.
younger brother.
Nice. Yeah, I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters, but my eldest brother was a big video game guy too, and so the reason I got into a lot of it was because of him, and I got to, sit and watch him play like all the R-rated games when I was like a young
Yeah.
like watching him play GTA and shit. That was awesome.
Vice City, probably he played Vice City and stuff like that, right? GTA
Yeah.
3, yeah, the classic one, solid. Yeah, nice. So I have a
Old
question. Do you have like perhaps on the creation of the project and so on, do you have any crazy stories or something that happened to you that perhaps you can remember and share with us? Like anything, it can be funny or crazy or anything like that happened to you on the process of creating Initia and so on.
I even think
So
just like, in the work world or like early crypto too, it's fair
Yeah.
game. There's just an insane amount of characters in this.
I mean,
Yeah.
I love the stories you've shared. You illegally printed and made your own
Hey.
video, your
Chill,
GameStop.
chill.
Cops are at your door.
Yeah, I've got banned from the GameStop loyalty program. They don't like me.
Devastating.
In crypto land, the thing about crypto is that, everything is like the Wild West, especially last cycle when it was like DeFi summer, right? Stuff was so fun to play with, but like my original, I'm not like a 3 cycler yet. I got into crypto because my brother was like played around with like Bitcoin back in the day, and then when DeFi summer came around, like it was right after ETH got added to Robinhood, and so I started looking into things again. And so I bought actually probably my first ETH on Robinhood, which was back in like 2018. So it was a minute ago. But my first time like properly coming onto chain was like farming some early stuff, but with size was Olympus DAO. And Olympus DAO was like the place to be back then, right? Because it was like a gajillion % APY. But all of the people that were within the Ohm scene and then went out to go and build stuff after that were just like great DeFi focused individuals that like liked building new mechanisms. And Olympus, despite, doing that, they continue to innovate a lot on things that people still use today, like how they built these reserve bonds and reserve treasuries that people can borrow against their own collateral, how they built like these range things that help keep the price pegged and like soften the blows on downs. Like there was a lot of good stuff that they built that I think was underappreciated, and now they're starting to come back a little with the Berachain launch because I think originally invested into the Berachain seed round back in the day, and so they have quite a bit of size in there. And so I think that was really fun, but the most fun thing that happened with these Olympus DAO forks was after they all blew up because you could RFV them, and I was part of the RFV cabal on Twitter a little bit. And this was in the bear market where basically a lot of these projects would have treasuries that were in stables and ETH that were trading at much higher than their circulating market caps or their FDVs. And so people would buy up tokens and then, try and force through a redemption that would basically split the treasury amongst the holders. And so this was pretty profitable strategy for me and a lot of other people. Luckily, I didn't have to do most of the fighting. I was just there to reap the rewards. But a lot of I think it turned out to be a very good thing for holders because most of these teams were trying to basically just drain the treasury with salaries, like not building anything. They'd pay themselves hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to do nothing. And all of the people originally funded the treasury in the first place, so it was only right that they, got the treasury back out. But some of those wars I know went to legal lawsuits. Some of them exposed some crazy things within certain protocols. All sorts of stuff happened in RFV land over the bear market, and I thought that was a pretty fun time to actually be around in crypto. Definitely less of the Ponzi game, but I would say my risk tolerance is not that crazy. I wouldn't do many pool twos. There was a lot of algorithmic stables that were, people played a lot with those, with what was that one that Mark Cuban was shilling and then exploded a week later?
Oh, I don't know if it was Titan or something like that.
Yeah. I think it was Titan.
And then, blew up a week later. That was wild.
All of these algo stables last cycle were hilarious because they were the exact same thing. And you would just do them over and over again, and everyone knew what the game was.
Yeah.
And it was just who could play the game and get out sooner than everyone else. And the time went shorter and shorter and shorter.
Hey, but when you put 3-3 there and it's just this whole game theory thing, it's oh yeah, this totally makes sense. Everyone's going to do this. It's just well, no, once one brick falls, the whole thing comes tumbling down.
Yeah. Did you see 9-9 from Olympus DAO back in the day? So,
no.
That was the best. That was leveraged 3-3, where you could borrow stables against your ohm and then buy more ohm.
What could go wrong?
That was when Fuse was around, and then Fuse got hacked, and that basically created this big liquidation cascade, which nuked ohm.
I remember I wouldn't get out of bed for less than 4-figure APY, and there was one... There's one called Wonderland.
Coming from? Yep.
Exactly. Wonderland was a fun one, and that was at, I think, 40,000 APY at one point. I was like, this is so easy. And then, of course, it just blows up, and the poor founder on X is just trying to do damage control. It's like a Duquan type of situation. Hold on, let me try to fix this type of thing. It's just absolutely crumbling and melting before your eyes.
Sifu and Daniel Sesta. And
right. So what the founder, I remember the drama that came out was when people found out that Sifu was part of the project because he was using an alias or something, and then people were like, "What? This is done. This is donezo." And it was a whole PR nightmare, damage control, and that was the beginning of the end. I think was the Sifu being part of that one.
My favorite one was probably Temple DAO. Temple DAO was they raised the largest treasury from a public sale maybe ever. It was $150 million within a day or something, and the onboarding to Temple was just so insane, right? You first of all in the Discord you had to get in, and then you had to spam exclamation pray. And then you had to do something that made people notice you to get accepted into the Discord. So people were like, singing crazy songs or like making videos of doing shit. Like, it was wild in there. And then there was the opening ceremony, which was how you got an allocation to buy, which was this thing called crypto voxels. And it was basically like a Minecraft-esque floating world where everyone was like this 3D figure, and you had to go solve a series of challenges over like 12 hours
Ready Player
in
One
this
type
3D
stuff.
world. And after doing all of that, you got to basically participate in the presale. But the level of detail and like development that went into all this and the thought was just, insane. The level of creativity there.
Yeah.
And Mista, who is on the Initia team, actually used to work at Temple. And so Temple was awesome as this original Ohm fork, but after, all these Ohm forks exploded, they became like one of the first ones to do an RFV, and then became like RFV people themselves. So they started to protect their backing using this system that they built called Ramos. They then were like participating in a lot of other RFVs, like buying up treasuries, etc. And now the Temple Price Index, which is what you buy into, they basically go and farm with the treasury and like participate in all sorts of like deals and stuff. And it has been a great place to park stables. It's like grown at like 25% pretty safely over the past year.
Jeez.
Yeah, a lot of these products, I think they go through cycles where, you have expansion and then you have contraction, but then you start to find your PMF, or you just, explode and never come back.
Yeah. It's I think there's an effect here of similar to NASA, where if you take a step back at what NASA's trying to do, I think a lot of people ask, what's the point of trying to get to the moon? What's the point of a lot of these different missions? But then a lot of the technology that's developed specifically for that mission ends up being useful in everyday life. Like this is where the microwave came from, right? Several other pieces of technology that come from it. And I think you could look at some of these projects and say, well, that was a complete failure, or man, that'll never work. And yet what you're doing is you're building up skills and experience and even primitives that you can use towards other things. And you don't know that they're going to be valuable until they become valuable, or until a new meta is uncovered. And I think this is what ends up happening is you have a lot of these people who come from RuneScape, and these new metas are discovered, and suddenly everyone has to learn it. And this is what's happening in this Wild West, where no one knows what they're doing, and we're kind of like, it's the final frontier. You're just discovering, where's the coast? Where's the coast? Oh, that's water. Okay, let's go this way instead. And it's both maddening because it changes so frequently, but it's also really freaking fun. And I think there's just certain people are built a certain way who are attracted to this type of environment where it's just you're just discovering new things every day, and you don't know what's going to be revealed as the new big thing, and then everyone adopts it.
Yeah,
It's fun.
Last cycle, though, I felt like there was a lot more of this economic development and experimentation, especially on chain with DeFi, and people would go play with these things. This cycle, though, it's been pretty upsetting, I think, because I have not seen anywhere close to as much experimentation. And even if there is experimentation, we don't have the users that go and play with these anymore, because most of the capital fled to things like meme coins. And meme coins were just not a very exciting game for me. I felt like I would either lose money, or the way that people made money was like being part of the cabal that knows like which coins are people going to talk about and shill and pump. And some people say that this is the most egalitarian thing ever because this way there's less insider stuff that's happening. But I think actually in meme coin land there was a lot more insider stuff that was happening.
It's just not as fun of a game either, like you said. It's such a simple. That the game isn't really evolving. I don't really see much interesting experiments being done there. And I guess along those lines, one, that's partially what we're trying to do is just another segment of the show is just bring more attention to the apps that are out there, because I think there are interesting apps that people are experimenting with cool things. And when the overwhelming I guess mind share is that meme coins, people don't necessarily know that these things are out there. and it takes a lot of focused effort, I think, to divert people's attention. And man, like attention is the name of the game in this space, and there's always a new shiny object, and it's very difficult to direct that. But I guess are there certain projects, whether they look more like traditional games or like DeFi and they're playing with interesting incentive structures or whatever, that you're like, that is different? Or people who are coming from a lot of these projects that have like an Olympus DAO is like this kind of PayPal alumni network of people who are doing all these really cool things afterwards. Like, what are some of those projects that you're seeing right now that people can kind of check out?
Yeah, so, well, Chain itself, of course,
Yeah,
kind of came out of Olympus. Another good one is called Baseline Money.
Baseline
They
money.
are also deploying on Initia, but they are basically a mechanism for launching new tokens that sets in RFV values, so like it can never go below this floor, and basically all sorts of trades, transactions, and whatever the fees that accumulate go towards this baseline value, which underlies the token, and so you basically have this rising floor over time. But they have a bunch
Mm,
of interesting mechanisms that are supposed to help bring that floor up more, and they've launched a few meme coins with this concept, and there's a game on Initia called Kamigachi that is going to use this baseline tokenomic system to basically power their native token going forward. So I think that is going to be pretty interesting to see. A few of the other things that I'm seeing right now are really around like social fi, attention fi, like after Kaito. Friend Tech kind
hmm
of started this initial wave, but now we have things like Ethos, which is like reputation sharing. People can slash each other and like stake reputation on each other. There is Fantasy Top continues to be a pretty awesome application that basically uses people's Twitter presence and their scores there, and you like build a trading card deck of like all the different people that you
Wow.
want to be part of your set that you think are going to have a lot of attention this upcoming week on Twitter. And
It's
then you
fantasy
like fight
Twitter,
each
yeah,
other.
person.
Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. It's
Oh
fantasy
my
but crypto
gosh.
Twitter. Um, those two have been cool. Lately, for like the DeFi side, I've really just been farming some of these Athena-like forks. So after Athena, there was Usual, which was pretty fun until they rugged everyone a little bit, just a little, and then
Just a little.
Resolve recently. Uh, Resolve is like a tranched version of Athena, so that's been good. And then Echelon Markets on Aptos. They're building a roll up on Initia as well that's centered around like their debt engine. But SUSDE and Athena just made their way to Aptos, and so they have a pretty good stable farm right now. I think I'm like max giga looped, and I'm getting like 40-50% APY on my stables, which is not bad given everything's down like
Yeah.
50% right now. And then I'm really excited actually for fully on-chain games. I feel like
Mm-hmm.
gaming is just a incredibly hard industry, especially in Web3, and I think Web 2.5 games are just not that exciting for crypto because we can do everything in a Web 2.5 game in Web 2, probably
Yeah.
better. And Web 3 fully on-chain games, like the way that they are starting to build the mechanics and like their ecosystems and how the economics of it all work, become a lot more interesting. And I think some of the ones that we have on Initia, primarily Kamigachi, Battle for Blockchain, and Civicia, are like the most cracked ones that I've seen. These teams have been building since like 2022, and they finally found like the right infrastructure home and ecosystem home for them. And I'm very glad that that is Initia. But the games are just fun. Like you can go try them later on. Um, I'm really excited for that because Bear or Bull, ideally people are still playing these games because they're not entering
Yeah.
from a pure yield perspective.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is when your game is purely financial, no one's going to play it when the market is down. No one's going to play it when sentiment is down. I think we kind of get away sometimes from the whole point of all of this, which is to build something that's fun and interesting that people want to engage in. The yes, the speculative aspect is the core use case for crypto, but there's so much more that you can build with that, and I like teams that are kind of stretching that and not just rehashing the same thing. And it's like it's gaming, but your assets are on chain. It's like, okay, That's like that's V1, I think, right?
Yeah,
But it's like,
correct.
what's the next iteration as we learn what's possible with these different things, and as people reveal, like, oh, you can use this primitive for this other new use case, and people latch onto that, and it's just like, even with all these different failures, you find these elements that were really cool and worked, and people start to accrue a good collection of these things that make sense and put it all into one. And it's just a matter of time before one of these works.
Yeah. I think the financialization element is very important in Web3, and so applying it to a game in a way that it's like a gamified financial system is a lot more fun, because that's like, RuneScape. A lot of people got into
Yeah.
it and stuck with it because they built a really interesting economy there that kept people around. And then, you have this very difficult process for like actually being able to use real money, and Bitcoin was the reason that everyone was able to like buy into these things. But now just actually making that more accessible and creating these economies that are interesting are going to be really unique when it comes to mainnet.
Yep. I love it. Man, this has been a fun conversation, Zon. Covered a lot of ground. I knew we'd find our way, even with a kind of rough and open
Back to crypto?
direction that we were going in. Exactly. Yeah. It's always going to come back to crypto. That is a magnet. I know we'd find our way back. I'm excited to dig into some of these apps that you were suggesting. I think in one of our other segments, we'll be able to cover some of these apps. So for people listening, it's like we're gonna bring on some of the team from Initia on, and we're gonna cover a handful of apps that are live right now that you guys can use right now. We'll probably cover some over time as new apps release, and just bringing more and more attention to some of these really cool games where people are designing interesting, novel incentive structures, and they're coming from these cracked projects where they've learned about a bunch of these different primitives. So we want to shine a light on those apps. They are here. They exist. You don't just have to play with meme coins. You don't just have to worry about speculation. You can
Real.
make money and focus on the fun. And there's
Well,
a
who
lot
knows
of cool
about the making
experiments out
money
there.
part?
Well,
NFA.
yeah. You might not make money for a while now. It's like, we'll see. Here for the fun. All right. I appreciate it, Zon. This was a ton of fun. Thanks for joining.
Appreciate it, guys. Thanks for having me. Fico, go enjoy your third surfing session of the day.
Yeah, for sure. I will try, man. It was
Nighttime
nice to meet
surf.
you, man.
You too, guys.
Good to meet you.
See
All
you
right,
around.
catch you.